Okay, welcome, Shawn. I'm so happy
Hi.
that you could make time and can have our chat. You will
Absolutely.
you will be.
Absolutely.
I don't know anything about teaching, so you will be the main speaker here. Yeah.
All right. Thank you
So
for having me.
you can introduce yourself and tell us who you are, what you teach, or what you do. Yeah.
All right. Hi, my name is Shawn. I'm a teacher, as in high school teacher in Malaysia. And the students that I'm in charge of teaching are from between the ages of 13 to 17 years old. And my subjects or my teaching subject specialty are the sciences, particularly biology as well as chemistry.
That sounds interesting. So, how is it like teaching teenagers? Because those are teenagers.
Generally, to put it very simply, and a lot of teachers will agree with me, and it's a very, very extremely trying job. Very, very trying. It can affect you physically, mentally, emotionally, and it requires a great deal of effort, which is not always seen by people on the outside. A lot of people have a lot of impressions about teachers along the lines of things such as, oh, your job must be great because you're working lesser hours than regular corporate workers. You get more holidays than regular corporate workers. And so therefore, your life should be a little bit more stress-free compared to, those who are professional workers, which are massive misconceptions that really, really bug and irk a lot of professional teachers who know how difficult the situation really is. But having said that, even though the workload is very, very challenging and very, very weighty at times, it is still a very rewarding profession in general. To not just teach students your subjects that you are specializing in, but very importantly to teach them important lessons about life, so when they grow up, they can succeed at whatever it is that they do. That is one of the biggest rewards all teachers at any level strive to achieve. And that is something that keeps a lot of us teachers in our profession going, even though things can be very challenging on many, many levels. Yeah.
Wow. You brought up something I had not thought about. So, how does a biology teacher teach lessons that will affect the students even after they leave school?
That's a very interesting question. Basically, what I can say is this. Teachers in general are not just teachers of the subjects that they are actually teaching. The important things that has been drummed in as teachers when we go for training is that we are not merely just teachers, we are also life coaches. We are so, to a certain extent, you can say that we are also psychologists or psychiatrists. We're dealing with a lot of different types of student behavior as well as problems. And particularly at the place that I work at, the team of teachers that I'm associated with, they put a lot of emphasis into teacher and professional development. So not just training and teaching us as to how to be effective in teaching the subjects that we specialize in, but very importantly also training us to be able to be life coaches, be good friends, confidence, supports to our students. So there's a saying in our profession that students remember teachers not so much for the things that they teach in class, but they remember teachers made them feel. whether their teachers made them feel supported, whether their teachers made them feel good, whether their teachers made them positive about themselves, whether their teachers instilled motivation and self-confidence to be able to try new things. That's students generally remember about their teachers long after they've even completed their studies and they move to other places. And I would say from my experience, that's a definite reality. And that also adds to the reward that I mentioned teachers strive to achieve, that intrinsic reward, if you want to call it that way, that really keeps us teachers going in our profession.
I like that. You've reminded me of he was my primary school teacher and he was teaching geography, but he was also the class teacher. And to this day, I remember him because in class 7, I was very naughty. I was in all the, I was punished every day. And he came up with a plan. He would beat me in the morning, break time, lunchtime, and evening. And he realized that was not working. So now he started calling me to talk to me. And it was the talking that got to me. Like he would just tell me, you have to realize that you have to think about your future. So when he brought that up, I was like, well, I need to think about my future. And that helped. And I think that's what you mean when you say you need to be able to reach the students. Like when you realize, like him, he realized beating wasn't helping. I was tough. I could take any beating. So talking to me really worked. And after that, I didn't get my behavior didn't change a lot, but my marks improved and that helped. Yeah. So another thing, when I look at your social media on Facebook, I always see you interacting with your students. Like it's a very fun class to be in your class. And I'm thinking, you teach science. What fun is there in science? This would be something that would be hard in an art class or a language class. But how do you do that? How are you able to interact with your students and have them following you even on Facebook?
Right. It's a very good question. One that from a lot of outsiders as well, who are not really familiar with the teaching profession. But it goes back once again to the environment that we find in with regards to the world situation right now. Excuse me. The teachers that I work with, excuse me again, the group of teachers or the team of teachers that I work with, they realize that the world situation and the environment that students and teachers find themselves in, especially during this so-called period of the 21st century, is one that is very, very challenging because a lot of things environment has changed. The systems in terms of education, work, and even leisure environments and things like that, where students and teachers have find themselves in have changed dramatically over the past few years.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, it has also led to changes in behavior and personality with regards to students and teachers as well, particularly with regards to students. And that's when the teachers that I've been working with realize, from being in the education system themselves, also having families of their own, seeing how the situation has affected their own children, that really motivated them to take a look at the education system that we have right now and ask themselves, can we improve things? Can we make things better?
Yeah.
And that's what they did. And as a result, they developed their own tailored education system that combines a lot of different concepts, pedagogies, and teaching techniques that they've learned from various sources over the years.
Yeah.
And as a result, the education system that, or the style of teaching that we have at the place that I'm associated with, you can more or less say is a very, if you compare it to the education systems that are existing today, it's very unorthodox, very different. It may cause culture shocks in quite a number of people who actually come into our place and see how we do things for the first time. So for example, you asked me just now, yeah, you're a science teacher. How in the world is it that students actually, are still able to have fun and, be able to follow along in classes, things like that? So one of the things that we realize, one very important thing that we realize as teachers, is that particularly during this time that we're living in, we need to teach them, we need to teach students in the way that they are comfortable learning, not in the way that we think they should be learning. So what kind of things do students find fun? So it's no secret. We just have to open our eyes and we observe, and we see that students are very much connected to the technological world around them today. They're on TikTok, they're on Instagram, they're on Snapchat, many other social media outlets. And then at the same time, a lot of them are into things that will make them less stressed. That's why you see a lot of them are into games, and a lot of them are into entertainment. And these are the things that they like doing. And so when when this team of teachers that I'm working with realize that, then they also realize this is what we also need to include as part of our education system. And so as a result, our education system and the things that we do, it combines some of these technological methods as well as some of these things that students find fun. It's incorporated into our education system. It's incorporated into our class and syllabus structure. And it's something that students themselves not only find fun, but also by their own admission, it has also helped them to rediscover their passion for not only learning, but also trying and attempting to do new things. And so that's what the system that the teachers that I've been working with, that's what they've attempted to establish and also attempted to achieve.
That's awesome. So 2 questions out of that. So does this mean you have to go and learn how to be a teacher again, or how to teach this new, how to teach in this new way? Or is it just something that you come up with a group of teachers? Did you call someone to come and maybe assist you come and create something? Was it something that would, oh yeah, of course it's something that will work with the syllabus. So it's integrated into the syllabus. I understand that. So, and the second thing would be, so you say it's a bit unorthodox. So do you have to speak to the education department, or this is just something that you do in your school and it doesn't matter? You will judge it by the outcome. Like if they had a problem, the education department had a problem, you can tell them, just look at the results. Don't think about our methods.
Right. Good questions. So in answer to the first question, the 2 situations that you mentioned are 2 situations that basically exist at my workplace. So number 1 is that we receive training from the first day that we set foot in any of the schools that we are associated with to teach. So the training is on many levels. It's on a personal level. It's also on a mass or group level. And this training is done all the time, every year, at regular intervals, to make sure that we are keeping up with the skills that we have learned, and hopefully if there are new skills that need to be introduced, then that will also be introduced to us at our training sessions. That's one. And the second situation that you mentioned in your first question also applies. We do a lot of assisting work as well. So especially new teachers who come into our school for the first time, they need to be attached to more experienced teachers so that they can learn from them. And so this both situations or both systems exist at our place. So for your second question, this is something that we don't officially need to tell the education department or the Ministry of Education. It's not a requirement that has been put in place by the Ministry of Education here in our country. It is something that is quite flexible in that sense. Okay. So the Education Ministry is very flexible in the sense of they allow or they open to different methods of schooling. So of course they have the established national curriculum, but at the same time also there are a lot of private and international schools that exist in Malaysia as well, that of course don't follow the national curriculum, they follow international curriculum. And they have their own ways of teaching classes and doing things. And Education Ministry is very flexible in that sense. So there's not a major requirement for us to do massive reporting in that sense. Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. I've thought of there was such an initiative in Kenya. There was I think it was supported by the Dutch government, where they came up with schools that would be set up in the slum areas, such places, but their teachers were always on training. Like during holidays, you would hear they've gone for a conference, they're doing training. And I guess they had something of that sort where there's continuous improvement of any staff member that comes, and they were also using a lot of technology. And I guess they got a lot of backlash, for many students came from the public schools and just joined those schools. So there was also that, like, why are you stealing our students? Yeah. But anyway, I don't know much about it, but I guess it will be something similar. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Similar situation also exists in the area where I am, where there's been a huge proliferation and explosion of international and private schools in our country. So needless to say, there is a lot of competition that is happening in the education sector, especially in our country right now. And this is because of the national education system. A lot of people are slowly, steadily losing faith in the efficiency as well as the benefits of following the national education program that has been set by the government. Yeah. And that's why a lot of families, actually those families who are able to spend a little bit more in their expenses, those families, you'll see most often they are shifting their children to private and international because of that situation.
Yeah, that happens here also. Yeah. So my next thing we can discuss, it's what I was asking about. I don't know. I assume that you are a millennial, and from the ages that you mentioned you teach, that's Gen Z. And we are very different. We are very different, the two generations. So how hard is it to teach Gen Z? And would you say it's easier for you as compare, maybe you have some older teachers where you teach, some that are older and maybe in their 40s, their 50s. Is it easier for you to teach this generation as compared to maybe someone older? Do they find it harder, or how are they putting up with all of that?
Right. Firstly, I'm not considered a millennial.
Yeah.
I'm actually not born within the millennial range or the millennial years, so to speak. But a large part of my education, in terms of my years of education, yes, within the millennial years, so to speak, or the millennial generation years. So, in answer to the question, how hard is it to teach people of the millennial generation? The answer is it's really hard. It's probably an understatement. A lot of teachers, professional teachers, will probably agree with me when they say that that's a massive understatement, because they are probably, if we can put it this way, the most challenging generation to teach. Literally, the most challenging generation to teach if you compare it to the previous generations that have come before.
Is that because they ask questions and don't just take, they need facts and they need you to convince themselves?
Well, if that were the only challenge, I would say that life would be so much easier, but that is not the only challenge.
Yeah.
If students only had that particular issue a challenge, and over here when I say issue, I would probably label that as an issue in inverted commas, because it's not such an issue compared to the many other challenges that students have to go through and what teachers also have to face as well. So it's no secret, especially when you get professional opinions from psychologists as well as other educators as to their opinions about the millennial generation. They list the millennial generation as a very difficult generation to deal with because of many things. Things along the lines of, for example, being so connected to technology that as a result, their psychological, emotional, and communicative development gets hindered. And that leads to a lot of behavioral problems. So behavioral problems that happen within the family, behavioral problems that obviously get transferred to school when they come to class. So those challenges, I would say, are the biggest challenges that are facing the millennial generation. And as a result of that, that's the reason why when you hear a lot in the news and in social media outlets as to how the millennial generation are going, you'll find that a lot of them are not doing well when it comes to things such as handling higher level responsibilities as an adult, handling stress, keeping a job, being able to deal with multiple challenges that come their way, whether it's dealing with things related to relationship issues, things related to financial issues and things like that. And as a result, a lot of them are not dealing with these situations very well. And that's the reason why in certain areas of the world, there has been an increase in suicide rates among the millennial generation because of that. So it's a very sad reality that exists today, and it's unfortunately here to stay. This is something that educators have to deal with. No, educators do not when it comes to these challenges.
So when you say that these issues come from home and maybe the background and they are transferred in school, so how do you cope with that? Or how much influence can you have on a student for the few years that they are going to be under your supervision?
That's a very good question, and something that's I would say is very difficult to answer, because there are a lot of things that can be done. But to put it very simply, the simplest way that I can answer that question is that a large part of it has to do with the effort that you as a teacher are willing to put in to each student's well-being. That's number one. And the second thing is how much of a connective level you willing to go with your students in class. So at my place, we are trained to connect with every single student. So it doesn't matter whether that student is proficient, whether the student is not proficient, whether that student is having plenty of problems. We, in our training, are mandated in our job to put in as much effort as we possibly can in order to reach that student and to connect with them on whatever level that we can. To connect with them, of course, in the classroom, academically, of course, is very important. But the main emphasis is always to connect with them on an emotional and mental level. That's the most important. Because once we connect with them on an emotional and mental level and really get to understand them, that's how we are able to get them moving in an academic direction as well. And that is something that is a very, very challenging thing for every single one of us teachers who are working in this profession today. So in answer to your your earlier question, where you are asking whether it's easier for teachers of my age group, for example, compared to older teachers to be able to deal with students, I would say the answer to that would be yes and no. Yes and no. In the sense that because teachers age went through that in the also as students.
Sorry, I lost you. Sorry, I lost you.
All right.
Please back up a bit.
No problem.
I lost you when you are talking about the challenge. I can't see you. Are you still off?
I'm
okay.
topic you for a while.
Okay, so you were saying it's true that it's very challenging. Yes and no, it's challenging, and regardless of the generation, regardless of the teacher's age, it's challenging.
Right.
Go back to what you are saying.
Right. So the reason why I said yes to that question, that it's easier for teachers of my level, is because when teachers of my age level, we've experienced what it's like to be in the education system during the millennial generation, so to speak. So we can relate to students' likes and dislikes and issues a little bit easier in that sense. Does it make our job easier in terms of being able to? The answer is no. It's a very simple fact that everyone is different, and so students are no different as well. Obviously, every single student is different, and we will not be able to reach every single one. Unfortunately, you know, they are different and they have their own preference. Things like that. But to the extent possible, we try to reach as many of them as possible and connect with them as many as possible. And so teachers at my place who are in the older age, that's where they have had to really change and adapt their mindset and their focus when they start to be trained by our teachers or our team of teachers at our place. They really have to shift their mindset and really adapt. And for them, obviously, in that sense, it's a lot harder for them. Said that, there are a number of teachers at my place who have succeeded at that. And some of them are in the 40 years old category, even all the way up to 50 or even 60 years old category, as you mentioned just now. And they are doing fantastic in terms of adapting to the situation that they have and really connecting with. But of course, not everyone has succeeded at that at our place. Quite a number have tried and have found workload and the emotional toll, the emotional and mental toll that it takes is too much for them to bear. So some of them fortunately failed at being able to keep up with the pace, so to speak. But there are those of us, like for example, myself and a few other younger teachers, we, as I mentioned earlier in our discussion, that reward, that intrinsic reward that we see when we are able to help our students, that really keeps us going. All the emotional and mental battering that we sometimes take, but yeah.
I can imagine. I'm just thinking, maybe I don't know how many streams you teach and a total of how many students you have to interact with per week, and trying to reach in everyone, each one of them, and to understand each one of them. You need strength.
I can definitely answer that question for you. In my current profession, in my current situation right now, I teach basically roughly around 150 to, at the very maximum, 200 students. So, and that's my current situation. And every year it's roughly around that student total number range.
Wow. So what would you advise teachers? Because I believe, 150 is a lot, but I also think there might be teachers that have bigger classes or have to teach students that are not, they are not willing to work with the teacher. And also there are teachers who haven't gone through the same training that you have, or haven't tried to maybe improve their teaching methods. So what in a general way, how would you advise someone who is in that position?
Right. The two things that probably I can say. The first is that you yourself as a teacher have to be willing to put in the effort to learn new things, to adapt. And that is the thing that you must do as a teacher. If you are not willing to do so, then your effectiveness as a teacher will be limited, and it is something that you will not be able to really take with you as you try to progress. And you would most likely probably fail if that wasn't put in, or that effort wasn't put in. And the second thing that needs to be done, I would say, is, and this is the really difficult part, is to be able to connect with students on an emotional and mental level. That's the most important thing. Students need to feel that they are secure, that they can trust the teacher, and that they are comfortable to be able to learn in that environment. And a lot of that is dependent on how the teacher connects with the student. And if the teacher is not able to connect with the student on that level, then that teacher would have failed as well. So I would say these are the two really important things that teachers really need to put in effort to work at. That is assuming that they want to be in the teaching profession,
Yeah.
and they also want to become better at it.
Thank you. Um, that's those are very nice pointers. Let's take a short break, and then you can come and I'll have a look at my notes. There's some of the things that you had mentioned we'll discuss, and also you'll tell us how you got into teaching, whether you always wanted to be a teacher or you had a change of mind. Just take a short break, then
Absolutely.
you'll come back. Thank
All
you.
right.
So, Shawn, you can tell us why you decided to become a teacher. Was it a calling? Were you forced into it? Are your parents teachers and you just decided you wanted to be a teacher? Or was it the money? Or why did you decide to become a high school teacher?
Yeah, this is, I would say, probably the quintessential question that is asked of any teacher, right?
Yeah.
Did they become a teacher by choice or not? And my answer is not something that is very surprising or it's a rocket science answer.
Yeah.
Did I choose was this a profession that I initially chose to go into? The answer is no.
Mm.
I was, of course, planning, like a lot of teachers will tell you as well, I was planning to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, the professional teaching profession is something that is looked down upon in quite a number of countries.
Yeah.
Because of the massive workload, the emotional and mental toll it takes on you. And plus, on top of that, you're not doing it for that much pay either. So that is something that leads a lot of people to take up this profession as a stepping stone to do something else. So it's never, in the case of a number of people, it's not something that they want to do for life. It's or for an extended period of time. It's something that is done as a stepping stone to another career option. In my case, friends suggested that I give it a try.
Yeah.
And at first I was thinking, no, you gotta be insane. I'm not that kind of person that can really seriously connect with kids on that level.
Yeah.
And some of my friends who are themselves teachers, educators, they said, give it a try.
Okay.
And if it doesn't work out, you can always do something else. And so I was thinking about it for a time and I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
And true enough, it's after giving it a shot that I decided to stay in my current profession because it's something that I enjoy doing right now. So as to whether I come from a family of educators, the answer is yes. my father is not a full-time educator. He did work professionally in the hospitality industry, but in his later life, yes, he became an educator at a couple of colleges and universities. So the experience, in a way, runs in the family, so to speak. But I wouldn't say it's something that really helps me or prepared me for this particular career option. It's basically experiencing what it's like to be a teacher and also learning from a lot of mistakes. So it's being able to learn from a lot of mistakes, some small and some really ones that you will look back on and you will be thinking to yourself, why in the world did I actually do or get myself into that kind of situation?
Yeah.
Once again, it's something that I also cherish in my profession because again, it's a fact of life which gets a bit cliche and boring, but you do learn from your mistakes and you also do learn from your successes.
Yes.
And there is something that's all teachers also take with them as well. It's no different for teachers as well. unfortunately, we will unfortunately fail in being able to connect with certain students, being able to make certain decisions
Mm,
profession that are for the students or even the betterment for ourselves.
mm,
But it's something that we learn from and we move on from that. We learn from that and just move on.
mm. Nice. Thank you for sharing that. How long have you been teaching?
So this year would mark my 12th year
Oh,
of teaching.
that's,
Yes, I started off young
yeah.
and I have been teaching ever since.
Mm,
And this is my 12th year. Yeah.
good job. You stuck. You stuck with it. Yeah. So maybe just one last question. How has it been for you since we've shifted from classroom teaching, face-to-face interacting with students to this, to having your earphones on and a screen and maybe some of your students asleep as you teach? How has it been for
Mhm.
you?
It has been another major adjustment,
Mm,
needless to say.
yeah.
Um, as you can imagine, our job was already challenging enough as it was and as it still is,
Mm,
especially if we are conducting physical classes.
yeah.
But transitioning to online classes obviously adds several
Mm,
different layers of challenges that we all have no choice but to navigate through.
yeah.
It's not these challenges, unfortunately, are not something that you can avoid, but it's something that we also need to take it as it comes, work with it, and do our best with it. So
Mm,
as you can imagine, there are a lot of challenges from, as you mentioned, students sleeping in class while you're teaching and not responding to questions, not responding to your calls and things like that,
mm,
not getting assignments done,
mm,
and many, many other things.
yeah.
And unfortunately, it's a fact of life as long as we're online teaching.
Yeah.
And there are, of course, different ways that we can deal with it.
Mm,
And so what we do is we try our best to implement those tactics and strategies that we learn in training,
mm,
in our regular training.
mhm.
And we try to apply it when we also do our online classes, and that hopefully helps to mitigate problems to a certain level.
Mm. Oh, great. I have mad respect for teachers because the kind of life they have to experience, it's not something that you do if you are faint-hearted. So good job and keep on doing what you're doing.
Thank you very much.
Do you have something to add?
Uh,
Anything?
nope, I guess that's about it. The only other thing I can say is tomorrow is where we are is May the 16th, which is officially Teachers' Day. And so
Oh,
I suppose as a last thing, actually, yes, as a last thing that I can add is to every single educator that I know, and also every single educator around the world who is trying their best to really do their job and also to connect with their students. A very, very happy Teachers' Day to all of you.
mm,
And we are all in this together as long as this situation exists right now. But we definitely can be very successful if we put our mind and heart to it.
great. I think that's the best way to end this. Thank you so much. It's been nice having this chat. I hope to have you back again. We can continue, but I really appreciate that you could make it. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you for having me.